Alrighty guys, welcome to the next episode. So we're going over some supply zones now. So supply zones, basically the opposite of demand zones. So we look to the left of the chart. You want to find a green basin candle followed by a big drop to the downside. And the zone starts at the top of the wick of that basin candle and goes to the bottom of the body. And that's our zone. So we usually only try to trade if the price returns to the zone and we get confirmation of price action and equities. Okay. So some other things we look for to find nice supply zones are a rally base drop or a drop base drop. With a rally base drop, we look for a strong rally, a green basin candle, and then a strong drop to the downside. This means after that rally to the upside, those buyers and sellers were equally matched for a period of time, which is that basing period. And then the sellers won, which caused our supply zone. And our drop base drop means a big drop followed by a basing period where the buyers were trying to come back, but the sellers were still too strong at that level, and we ended up dropping hard after that basing candle. So let's take a look at how to draw supply zones. So again, we start on higher time frames, so a daily chart to start, and these were all our demand zones that we charted earlier in one of the other videos. So again, we look for a green basin candle followed by a really strong drop to the downside. Ideally, you want that to be twice as big as the basin candle. So what you do on a daily zone, I really don't see too much in here because this is not a basin candle. It's about the same size, nothing here. The only thing I'm seeing is maybe this right here. But see, this next candle goes higher than this basin candle. So it's still a strong drop to the downside. It just means it moved a little higher before we dropped. So I'm still going to chart this from the top of this wick to the bottom of that body. Make that our supply zone. And usually, we just go from the top of this wick to the bottom of the body for supply. Except now, since it's crossed just a little higher above it, I'm just going to extend it. And then I'm going to chart this and say that is our daily zone, right? And with supply zones, you want to chart supply when it's higher than the price. So it needs to be above the actual price right now. Another supply zone that I'm seeing right here on the daily zone is this. Look, we have a little rally, a little base, and a drop. Rally, base, drop. It's a nice basing candle. It's a good drop to the downside, good continuation. That's what you like to see with a supply zone. So those are the only things I'm going to draw right there for our supply. I'm yawning a lot. Okay. So after daily, I'm going to go down to 6 hour, and we're going to see if we can find anything there. So start from recently, see if we see anything. Look at this beautiful little green basin candle. Huge drop to the downside. That's a perfect zone. Perfect zone. Top of the wick to the bottom of the body. Chart that. We'll say 6 hour. And remember, this is a really good zone because we rallied pretty hard here. We kind of based out up here. Sellers won. Hard drop. Straight down. Straight down. And so most likely next time we come into the zone, it's such a strong zone. There's probably tons of passive sell orders all up in here, right? So I don't know what I just did. Did I delete all these zones? No. Okay. It's just up here. So yeah, there's most likely a ton of orders, passive sell orders, all up in this zone right now. And it's a really strong zone because it's such a strong drop to the downside. That's just a beautiful, perfect zone right there. So if you had to take a picture on what a perfect zone supply looks like, it's this. Little base, big drop. Moving on. let's go this way. So kind of right here, we have a little base, and again, not a huge drop, but it's probably around twice as big as this candle and a good continuation. So if we chart that out, look at that. Look at that. Let me fix that real quick. So we have it come up, rejects, 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 like 3 or 4 times rejection, right? I don't know what I just deleted right there. Oh well. But that's a good zone as well, except since we've bounced or rejected off of it a few times already, there's going to be less passive sell orders up in this zone, so it could be easier to fly by it. And so when you get something like that where it's bounced or rejected a couple times, you could just type used next to it so you know it's a used up zone, just so you're more aware it might not reject at all or right away. And then that's the only things I see from recently for the 6 hour. So let's go to 5 hour. Another yawn. So you can kind of see right here we have a little base and kind of a drop to the downside, but it is a gap down, so I don't love it, right? I don't love when it gaps down like that. I like to see them a little more smooth, but I'm going to chart it just with some question marks, just because we don't know what's going to happen there, but kind of just an area of like we have dropped there before. And you see same thing right here, kind of a green basin candle, nice drop to the downside, but it was a gap down, so not really sure how well that would work, because I think the gaps tend to not work as well, but I still draw them just because. But this 6 hour use zone is good, this daily zone is good, this 6 hour zone is really good right here. These zones are mediocre. Let's go to 4 hour now. 4 hour, again, this is a pretty good 4 hour zone right here. So we have this zone that kind of came up, it's formed inside of this 6 hour zone, which this is probably a better zone because it's not used up, right? And it's a big drop to the downside. So that's a pretty good 4 hour. Yeah, that's a good 4 hour. Top of the wick to the bottom of the body, strong drop to the downside. It's like what you want to see, and it's inside of a supply already, so it's kind of a double whammy. Keep going up. This is inside of our daily supply. We have a little rally, kind of bases out, and a big drop to downside. So I'm gonna write that our 4 hour is there with a line at the bottom of that body. And then let's see, right here, kind of have another, it's not perfect. We have a drop, little base, and another drop, right? But this wick goes higher than this candle, but I'm still gonna draw it from the top of that wick to the bottom of the body, simply because sometimes they do move up a little higher before they drop. It just means the sellers still were in control. So it tried moving up, it still didn't work, dropped. So that's our 4 hour. You see we rejected here, almost rejected there, but didn't. But we rejected a lot right here. So it's a solid zone. So now let's move to 3 hour. Look from recent, no real supply over here. Nothing over here. You could probably say this zone could be extended down here for the 3 hour as a 3 hour zone, because you have a base and then a decent drop to the downside, not a huge drop, but does drop, but good continuation, right? And we see you came back up into this zone, rejected hard, so that's not a bad zone either. It's a good one. If you think it's a decent zone, just draw it, and then worst case scenario, it doesn't work, right? But you're not gonna buy or sell right when it hits the zone anyway. So yeah, after the 3 hour, let's go to 2 hour. 2 hour zone. I don't see any supply over here. You could maybe extend this because you have a little base drop, but I'm just going to keep it. Then right here, we have kind of a drop, a little base, and a drop. Strong drop after. Again, another situation. Wick moves a little higher above this green candle. So in that situation, I'm going to drop from the top of that wick, bottom of the body. Have that our 2 hour zone. And you know, price hasn't came into that zone, so it's fresh zone, which is what you like to see as well. You also have a 2 hour here, which it's already in our zones and like right next to 2 other zones, so you don't really need to draw it, but I'll do it anyway. It's a really nice basin candle and a big drop. So yeah, starting to get our zones put together now. Let's go to the 90-minute now. 90-minute zone, there's really nothing in here. It's just too choppy. Nothing over here. Let's continue going up. Really nothing over here either. Yeah. Nothing new on the 90-minute. So 1 hour now. 1 hour. Again, it was kind of too choppy over here. There's really no clean direction. So this would have been a really nice drop, base, and drop, right? Which usually forms decent supply zone. Except this candle had a nice buying wick on it, which isn't the best, right? But you see we kind of rejected it a little bit at first. We hit it, came back down, 15, 20 points. Then we broke through, kind of traded above it. So now I don't really like that zone, and I would have deleted it. But there's nothing else new. Nothing else new. So let's check the 45-minute zone. So 45-minute, here we go. Again, this wick, we're catching a lot of wicks that are moving higher, and then they're just getting met with selling. So I'm going to go from top of that wick to the bottom of the green candle's body. And remember, usually you just go from the top of the wick to the bottom of the body on the green candle, but since this wick moved a little higher, I'm going to place it up there. That's going to be a 45-minute zone because we had a really nice drop base and hard drop to downside. Like, that's a really good continuation. Look at that, right? Very good. And again, there's really nothing in here. Maybe you could have drawn, I probably wouldn't have drawn this right here, but you could have. And it looked like it kind of worked. Little basin candle. This next candle, not really a huge drop, but it kind of had some follow through with it. But no real big drop on this next candle after the basin candle, right? But again, if you draw what you think, it works out half the time. Well, supply and demand works out probably 90% of the time. But just put some question marks by it if you're unsure. That way you kind of know, what kind of zone you're coming up to. If you're coming up to a strong zone or weaker zone, or kind of like a, what kind of zone. But you see we came up back into this zone, rejected hard, back down, 30 points or so, all the way down. And it looks like we kind of topped out up here as well, and dropped back down. So it's kind of struggling around this zone, which is a little surprising, but just is so choppy here. Oh, but here is, so I guess I missed this on the 1 hour from recent. So this is the zone, not that 45-minute zone. So I had a nice basin candle and a good drop to the downside, except, the wick moves a little higher. So again, we extend that zone to the top of that wick. And then that's our hourly zone. So I did miss that zone. But yeah, so we came back into this zone, touched, rejected. Looks like we're rejecting right now as well, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, let's go to the 30-minute. 30-minute, nothing special. Nothing over here at least. Here's a good 30-minute zone. Nice drop, little base, strong drop to the downside. Go from the top of the wick to the bottom of the body. Label that our 30-minute zone. And then that would be our supply zone. Anything else over here? So you could maybe say this right here. We kind of struggled around this whole area, so I kind of want to put something around it just because it's like kind of a big drop, base drop. There just wasn't anything super pretty. So I'm going to do this 30-minute zone because it's kind of the best looking one in my opinion. Go from the top of that wick, bottom of the body. This candle is not twice as big as this candle by any means, but has a really nice continuation to the downside. And that's a 30-minute. So now you should have all these zones put together, right? A lot of these zones all up on your chart, and it only took maybe 30 minutes total to do all that. So you shouldn't really have to really change any of these zones, except if you blow through them, then you'd have to find some new zones. But you shouldn't have to do it that much. So yeah, that's how you draw supply zones. So on to the next video when we go over trading these zones.